Just, I mean, look at that throw. Whoa, heave, two, heave. Fighting. Hey folks, and welcome back to the channel. Now, today we're going to be fixing a big problem on this Punto. Now, if you've watched JM's video, although he loved 99% of this car, there was one thing that he absolutely hated.
The throw is really, really long, a little bit indistinct, and I think it's maybe not unfair to call it a little bit like a van gearbox.
The gear change. It is terrible. It feels like you are shifting gears into another time zone when you are driving, and I think it's really blunting the performance of this car. Well, as much performance as a 1.8 16 valve 20-year-old car can have, but I think there's more that we can get out of it. So today we are going to be fitting one of these, which is a Fortec short shifter kit. Now this is supposed to tighten up the sloppy, vague feeling gear shift and hopefully just make it feel like a car from this century. Before we find out just how much of an improvement the short shifter has made, we first need to get some baseline figures. So we're going to do some 0 to 60 runs with the stock shifter and just see how fast it is. I'm hoping for around sort of 8 seconds. Then we can fit the short shifter and then see how much of an improvement it's actually made. Let's hit it. Zero to 60. In just over 8 seconds, 8.031. I think stock, this is 8.5, so already that's a good improvement, but you can feel from just how far I'm having to basically row this car using the gearbox. It's just such a slow gear change. So I think really a short shifter is going to help us really get that 0 to 60 down to be as fast as it can reasonably be with all the modifications we've done on this car. Because yeah, it's just 1, 2, 3, 4. It feels like a tractor gearbox. And you can see why James wasn't a big fan of it. Now, apparently this is quite easy to install. Another Punto channel that I follow, Quattro Joe, has installed one. He said it takes maybe 20 minutes. This didn't come with any instructions, so I'm going to have to kind of figure it out as I go, but it looks to be reasonably simple. Essentially what it does is just, you know, reduce the throw between gears, which is exactly the problem. And I'll also take the opportunity to just feel how the gear linkages are and see if I can lube them up with some chain lube or something, definitely not silicone lube or anything like that, and see if that actually it can help improve the shift as well. I'm going to need to remove the strut brace, the air intake, the battery and the battery tray, and that should give me easy access to the top of the gearbox where the shift linkage is. That's the first off. I need to get these cleaned up because they are properly rusty. That is one strut brace removed. With the strut brace out of the way, we can now just remove the air intake a lot easier, and then we can get to the battery and battery tray as well. So there's the gear shifter cable, and you can probably just about see that it looks quite gungy. So that's probably part of the reason. A ball joint that pops off here. Yeah, let's go get the actual part and compare. Here's a short shifter. I think that sits like that. This bit pops off and goes on there, and 2 bolts there. That seems to make sense to me. Okay, so I think I figured out all the bits. I did look at the instructions, and it was for like a 1.8 16 valve twin spark Alfa Romeo, but the gearbox I believe is the same. So there's 2 bolts that need to come off the back of the gearbox, and then there's a clip that goes on here. We need to remove the ball joint from the shift linkage or the gear linkage, and then replace it with the new one that connects to this. Doesn't sound that bad. So first things first, let's get off the bolts of the old one and see if we can slide this new one on top. Let's see how the gear linkage shifts as is, and then we'll be able to better compare that to the short shifter afterwards. First, second, third, fourth, fifth. So this is the stock shift. Interesting, it started to return a little bit more than it used to. It used to like just stick like that, which is really weird when you first start driving it. You kind of get used to it. Yeah, just, I mean, look at that throw. Whoa, heave, two, heave, two. Yeah, we definitely have to fix this. Hey, this isn't the removable one, so this bit needs to stay. I don't think it's removable anyway. No, it doesn't feel like it's removable. This stays on, and the short shifter comes with two sort of spacers. So let's see what we've got to play with. What kind of bolt are you? You too big? Is it going to be a 10mm? Oh, it's not a 10mm. I'm going to need an extension on that because otherwise I'm going to screw my spine. So that was why that bolt was so hard to take off. So I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but yeah, look at the bottom of that bolt. Absolutely minging. You can see this bolt was just nice. And then at the bottom where it's exposed, it's absolutely sort of cratered with rust. So it's a good thing these things aren't going back in. Now I need to get the second one out, which I think is going to be even more difficult. I've managed to find an angle on this last bolt, and I kid you not, it's taken me like half an hour to get this far. Not really exciting stuff, but it is coming. It's just the bottom half of that bolt is going to be absolutely crusty, so I don't want to rush and put too much pressure on it. And it snaps, but it does feel like it's coming. I just have to use this comedy amount of extensions, and hopefully I don't bend a brake line, as this is kind of resting on it a little bit. Good thing I'm not reusing these bolts, because they are going to be screwed afterwards. If these bolts weren't screwed, this probably would be a 20-minute, half an hour job. Yeah, they're starting to come now. There we go. Yeah, now you're coming. Is there such a thing as a ratchet breaker bar? Because that would make this job so much easier. Let me know if there is, because I'll buy the shit out of it. Hopefully reinstallation will not be as painful because the bolts won't be as bad. Yeah. That was the counterweight. Here's the counterweight. It sits sort of behind the linkage, sort of like that. So there's going to be some spaces here, and then that's going to button in like that. So is the theory anyway. So what I'm going to do is see this bit here. I'm going to sand that down because it's a little bit crusty, and then we'll get to installing the short shift kit. Yeah, so I've started to sand down some of the corrosion here, so it's starting to feel a little better. I need to do a little bit more, and then that should hopefully move a little bit more. And then I've got some, where the hell I put it? So this is lock or chain spray. So I got this when I had my old camper van, and I had some deadlocks installed, and the locksmith recommended this stuff because unlike WD-40 or silicone lube, this won't cause things to sort of gum up and cause problems. So I think that should be a good sort of solution for this bit. So, all right, continue sanding, and then I'll catch you back when I'm spraying. All right, so I've kind of cleaned it off as best I can. It's looking more metal than rust now, which is cool. It's moving a lot more freely. So now we actually need to start installing the short shift kit. Exciting. Now this will be a little bit easier because my shift linkage thing, the ball joint on that is non-removable, which means it should just pop onto that. So it should be the case of putting these spacers sort of like that, hooking that, buttoning up the back to the counterweight, and then we're all good. Now what I'm doing is actually just running the bolt through the counterweight with some copper slip just to make it easier, clean up the threads. It's a good thing I'm not in a rush today. There's nothing worse than car jobs taking longer than you think. When you're in a rush, you know, lubed up and ready to go, then it's going to be a lot easier to reinstall. So's the theory anyway. It's a lot greasier, I can tell you that much. But if this does, in combination with sort of fettling the gear linkage, improve the shifting, I'm going to be so pleased, because it is literally the worst thing about the car. Even when the exhaust was really, really loud, the gear shift was still utterly ponk. So this will be a good job. It should go like this into the car. I'm not going to be able to show you because I'm not going to have the hands. But, you know, imagine things just going in seamlessly and beautifully, and that's exactly what's going to happen. Oh, yeah, that's the life. Oh, bloody hell. Right, okay. So like I have ADHD, or at least I think I do. I've never been formally diagnosed. Dyslexic and stuff, dyspraxic, dyscalcular, but I don't know if I have ADHD. But things just disappear as soon as you put them down, like just disappear into the universe. And it always takes me a while to find it And that's what makes it really frustrating to work on cars, because I just put stuff down and then it just ceases to exist, much like my socket, which is gone somewhere. I had it a minute ago. There we go. Oh God, my spine. Oh man, my back is not going to be thanking me later on, that's for sure. And then it should just be a case of popping that on. First, second, third, fourth, fifth. Show you how that feels inside. The short answer is it feels a bit weird. So it's definitely shorter. It's still not self-correcting, but I think maybe we just need to continue doing some more lubing, or ultimately it just needs some new linkages. We can do that at a later date, but it's definitely short. So all we have to do now is put everything back together and then take it on a test drive, and hopefully it won't pop off and it'll actually make a difference to the car. So immediately it is much quicker through the gears, which is great. The feel, it hasn't really fundamentally changed how this gearbox is feeling, which is still a little bit vague. Into third, into second. All right. It's much more direct. It still doesn't feel great, and I think that's the weird thing. And it means that we've still probably got a little bit more work to do on the gearbox side of things, and I don't know why that is. Maybe the gear linkage itself, that still needs to be replaced. Maybe the actual shifter thing here, I don't know what this is called, the gear stick and the bit that the gear stick goes into, maybe that needs to be replaced. So I'll look into how complicated a job that is. But it is better, but it's not like a night and day difference. I guess what I'm kind of looking for is, can I get a gear shift similar to like a Civic Type R? Machined, it's close, it's direct, it feels like, you know, you're really in control of the car. Even though the shifts are shorter, it doesn't feel any better. And I was kind of hoping that with cleaning up that linkage a little bit and installing the short shifter, I was hoping it would feel a little bit better than it is. I'm gonna wait for this traffic to pass, and then I'm gonna do another sort of aggro run and see if that really changes my opinion on it. This is a tricky situation. What else do I need to do to get this gearbox 100%? If you know, let me know in the comments. Do I need to replace the gear linkage? Do I need to replace this shifter unit? I don't even know what the hell this thing is called. Gear stick, selector bit thing. Whatever this plastic thing is underneath here, do I need to replace that? Would that help make this gear shift feel a little bit better? Or at least sort the vagaries of why it doesn't like kind of center itself? I don't know. The quest continues for the perfect gear change. It's a shame that the short shifter hasn't fixed all the problems. It's definitely better. It's a lot faster through the gears. But I don't know. Something is missing. I think that's what my heart and my gut is telling me. Something is missing from this gear change. What that is, I don't know. One of the biggest problems is that I don't know how good this gear shift was originally. Like, was it always a bit of a vague van-like gearbox, or is this just degraded through time and that's why it's bad? Am I expecting too much out of a stock Punto gearbox? Again, I don't know. What I do know is that when I had that 1.2 Punto Sporting, that gear change on that was great, really good, really precise. And ever since I drove that car, I really miss how that car felt. And I knew that this was nowhere close. So I don't think it's an endemic sort of Punto issue. I think that this gearbox, the linkage, and maybe the shifter need to be replaced. And ultimately that will get me the gear change I'm looking for. and I still can't find the gear change I'm looking for. But I will find that gear change, just not today. But this is what project cars are all about. Incremental changes to an ultimately better place. We hope. Actually, no, not we hope. I know I've made this Punto better in everything that I've done to it. This was unloved. It hadn't been serviced for years, hadn't been washed in years, and I've made it better. I've made it 1,000% better than when I bought this car way back in, June of last year. I'm proud of what we've managed to do. We've done a lot, and there's more to come, especially because we need to fix this absolutely ponk gear change. But that's for a future episode. If you've watched this far, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate you and all the stuff that you watch. If you haven't watched some of my other videos, please do so. We're getting close to that monetization target, so if you can help me get across that line, I will be ever grateful. Every minute you watch helps me get towards that goal and helps me be able to essentially afford to be able to pay for more upgrades to this Punto, the Cayenne, and all the cars that are going to follow. And with that, I'll catch you down the road.